Welcome, everyone. This is the Advanced Research in Public Policy and Administration webinar. My name is Taylor Lee, and I am the liaison librarian to the School of Public Policy and Administration here at Walden. This webinar is designed for students who have completed the bulk of their coursework and are starting to think about their dissertation. So for the purposes of this webinar, I will assume that you are already familiar with the library's website, your particular research homepage, and at least a few subject-specific databases. That being said, I want to emphasize that everybody is welcome here. I just wanted to include that disclaimer in case you find yourself wondering what I'm talking about at any given point. And if you do find yourself in that situation, I do recommend watching the Introduction to Public Policy and Administration webinar because that will clarify a lot of things that we discuss here. So in this webinar, we'll discuss advanced search strategies for subject-specific scholarly databases. We'll also discuss pertinent parts of the library's homepage and helpful resources advanced level students have at their disposal here at Walden. So with that being said, let's take a look at our objectives today. Okay, our first objective here is to access quick answers and library guides. These are incredibly helpful instructional content that you have access to through the library's website. Next, we'll talk a little bit about Boolean operators, what they are and how to use them when you're searching in databases. We'll talk about a couple alternative search methods, alternative to the keyword strategy, and some things we'll talk about are subject term searching and abstract searching. Then we'll talk more generally about what it means to search comprehensively. We'll see how you can save searches that you do and set search alerts. And finally, we'll talk about how you go about getting materials that we don't have access to in our collection. Okay, so we're actually going to start, I'm going to toggle over now to the library's homepage here. And I want to show you two helpful resources that you might not know about, quick answers and library guides. Both of these resource types offer written instructional content on a variety of topics related to doing research in the library. So both QAs and guides are great because unlike librarians, they are available to you 24/7. So if you get stuck in your research, you might want to check out some of this content before submitting a question to the Ask a Librarian tool. This instructional content is particularly helpful for advanced level students, as those students will often need to utilize the library in more varied and complex ways. Both of these types of instructional content are accessible via this main search bar on the library's homepage. And all you need to do to access them is to toggle between what is selected by default, Thoreau up here, to the other option, which is search everything. And then you can proceed to type in any term that you have a question about. So we'll use peer review as our example. So I'm just going to enter that in and press enter. And this is what the results page looks like. You'll have three columns. Over here on the left is where you'll find our guides. In the center column, you have quick answers. And over here on the right, you have results from Thoreau, our multi-database search tool. Okay, quick answers. What are quick answers? These, as the name implies, are short answers to commonly asked questions. So I'm just going to click on this first result we're seeing, which says, what is peer review? Just want to show you what they look like. Quick answers are a great place to start when you have any question, any kind of question about the library. And this is where we as Walden librarians go when we have a question about the library. So it'll give you a pretty succinct answer to your question and also link out to related content down here at the bottom. I'm going to go back to our list of results. And I want to show you our guides. Now, guides are much more detailed pieces of instructional content on a variety of library skills. So some of the more popular guides we have include the Evaluating Resources Guide, the Library Guide to Capstone Literature Reviews, and our Keyword Searching or Database Search Skills guides. I'll just click on one of these to show you. When you're looking at these results, you'll see two links, and the first link, which is bolded, is actually a section of the second link. So to get to the bigger guide, you actually click on the second part of the guide. And so this is our guide on verifying peer review. And it tells you how you would go about doing that. And it just provides much more information than those quick answers do. Okay. So I'm going to navigate back to the library homepage now. And I'm going to use this quick answers search to segue to our next topic, which is Boolean operators. So I'm going to type in the term Boolean. It's okay if you don't know what that means yet. And here we have this first quick answer. What are Boolean operators? So I'm going to bring up, I'll try to enlarge this a bit so you can see a bit better. So what are Boolean operators? Essentially, they are the words and, or, and not. And we use these terms in between our search terms when we're searching in databases. We use them to tell the database how we want it to search. So when do we use each of these? Or is always going to increase results. And we're going to use or in between search terms that represent the same concept of our topic. And we'll see an example of this soon. And on the other hand, is always going to decrease the amount of results you have. It is limiting your search, whereas or is expanding it. We are going to use and in between search terms that represent distinct concepts of your topic. And then not is also going to decrease the results. You will use the word not to exclude a particular term that is problematic to your search. Okay, so I am going to navigate now. I'm going to go back to the library homepage. I'm going to go into the Political Science Complete database, and to do so, I'll just show you a run through of how to get to the Public Policy and Administration page. You'll click on the Select a Subject drop-down, click on Public Policy and Administration, and then in this first drop-down menu, we have Databases, and Political Science Complete is the first one. So I'm going to open up this database to perform our sample search. And let's see. So I just wanted to mention before I came in here, I should have shown when you are doing your research, I highly recommend that you look in at all of these databases that show up in this initial list, but also there's a link at the bottom that says view all public policy databases. Take some time to explore the other databases. The only ones that we can fit on this short list are your best bets, but depending on your topic, there may be other databases that are much more relevant. So I just wanted to mention that. Okay. So when you click on Political Science Complete, it's going to bring you to a fairly standard advanced search page in a database. And for our sample research question today, we're going to use this question of how have water regulations affected agriculture in the United States? I've never had an appointment with a student who has had this topic, so I don't think I'm stepping on anyone's toes here. So we'll start by pulling our initial keywords straight out of our research question, making sure to use one search box per concept. So again, our question is, how have water regulations affected agriculture in the United States? So I'm going to put water in my first search box, regulations in my second search box, agriculture in my third search box. I'm going to add another search box by clicking on the plus sign to the right of the last search box. And finally, United States. Now, before we search, we want to scroll down and do a couple of things. We want to uncheck the full text box and check the peer review box. We do this to ensure that we're seeing everything out there on this topic, not only those materials that we have immediate full text access to. For the purposes of course assignments, you may want to leave that full text box checked, but when it comes to your dissertation, you really want to see everything. And we'll discuss how to get those materials that are not available in full text a bit later on. Now you can also limit your date range on this initial page down here, but I prefer to wait to see how many results we get before I limit by date. So with that said, I'm going to come up and click on search. And we are getting 20 results for this search. Now 20 is not bad, but it's certainly not enough for a dissertation literature review. So we're going to use some of those Boolean operators to add some additional keywords and see if we can improve our results. So up here in this first box for water, we want to think about other terms we associate with water in the context of agriculture or farming. And another word that I think of is irrigation. So I'm going to add that in, and I'm going to use that word or in between these two terms. Now, I capitalize my Boolean operators. You don't have to. Typically these days, databases are more intuitive and they don't need you to type it that way, but I still do because it helps me keep things straight in my head. So water or irrigation. Then we come down to regulations. And I think of other terms that could represent the same idea of regulations. And a couple of things that I came up with were legislation or laws. We might also add words like policies or case law. Now, agriculture, we could also add some terms like farming or crops. And then United States, there's really no other. We could maybe add USA, but you're usually okay just using United States. Okay, so I've added some terms. Now let's see what happens. We're going to update our search results. Okay, so now we're getting 62 results. So that's just a quick demonstration of how much more you can find by optimizing your searches with those Boolean operators. Okay, so the examples so far have all been examples of keyword searches, simple keyword searches, and this will remain one of the most reliable and straightforward ways to search. However, there are other ways to search as well. Some examples of alternative search methods are subject term searching and abstract searching. Why would we choose one of these alternative search methods over a simple keyword search? And the reason is it increases the relevancy of the results that you see. So whereas keyword searching might return results that only mention your search term once in passing, subject terms, on the other hand, are words and phrases assigned to articles based on the entirety of their content. So they're much more reliable indicators of relevancy. Keywords can be virtually anything. Subject terms, on the other hand, are limited and specific to an individual database. Depending on the database, subject terms might also be called things like index terms, subject headings, or topics. So how do we know which subject terms to use in our searches? Well, after running a simple keyword search like we've done, you can view the subject terms assigned to a result by looking at the information under the title. So we'll just take this first one as an example. Right under here, it says subjects, colon, and then it lists out a series of subject terms. So this will give you ideas by reviewing the subject terms that you find. It'll give you ideas of other terms to use in future searches or additional keywords you might want to add to your existing search. Now you can also come back up here to this link that says thesaurus along the top banner. I'm going to open this in a new tab. All databases will have some form of this tool. It might be called an index in another database. But this is a place, a tool you can use, and that has two search boxes. You want to use the second one. This is where you can input any search terms that you've been using or are trying to think of more terms for, and it will suggest other terms to you. So I'm going to type in this word water and press enter. And the results that you see default, it defaults to organize them by alphabetically, but you can also change that up here to list them by relevancy ranked. But all of the results that we see over here, it'll be some aspect of water, and then it'll say use, and then it'll give you another term that is hyperlinked. So I'm going to come down under water allocation. I'm going to click on water rights, and that'll take me to where that entry lives in the index. So we have to click it one more time. And then you finally get to a page that looks like this. And this is a rather brief entry. Others will be much longer sometimes, but it'll give you a scope note, so it'll define what this term means, just so you can be sure that this is what you mean. And then it'll give you broader terms, narrower terms, related terms, and used for terms. And what I recommend doing is going through this process for any search terms you're using and just jotting down on a piece of paper any other terms that you find through this method that might be helpful to add to your search. Okay, gonna come back over here to our search. Okay, let's talk about abstract searching, which is another one of those alternative methods I was referring to earlier. Abstract searching, like subject term searching, will return more relevant results than a simple keyword search because it is going to search for your search terms only in the article's abstract. An article abstract is a concise summary of the overall content of that article. So if a term shows up there, it will likely be representative of the overall content of the article. So this is a particularly good way to search if you're getting far too many results. Let's see, so to illustrate the searching, how searching the abstract can affect your results, I'm going to run a demo of all of the three search methods that we've discussed today. So I'm going to clear this search, and I'm just going to, first I'm just going to search for the term water by itself. So this is just a basic keyword search. I just want to see how many results we get here. Okay, so for the term water, I'm seeing 13,551 results, quite a lot. Now I just want to change that. I'm sorry, the example I meant to use was water laws. Okay, so 951, still quite a lot. Now let's see, and I actually skipped over this, I'm sorry, but I wanted to show you that you can also search you can select subject terms from this drop-down menu to the right, and that's how we'll do abstract searching as well. But say we've gone through that process, we've found some results, we know that water laws is a subject term in this database, well then we can type it up here, select subject terms, and search. So this brings us all the way down from 900 to 275. And all of these results that we're going to see are going to be much more relevant to the topic of water laws than the others that we would have found in the other search. Now let's see what happens if we search for this term in the abstract. So same process, you click on this drop-down menu to the right of the search box, scroll down to abstract, and search again. And this brings us down even further to 145. So keep this in mind, especially if you're getting far too many results. And just as a reminder, whenever I'm doing a search, I'm looking for somewhere between 50 and 200 results, ideally. If I'm getting much more than that, I want to limit it a bit more. If I'm getting fewer than that, I want to think about ways to broaden my search. Okay, so let's say we're going to switch gears here and talk about citation chaining, which is another really valuable search strategy that I want you to be aware of. So let's say that you find an article while you're searching in this database, Political Science Complete, or any other database. It seems perfect for your topic, but it's from 2011. And your literature is supposed to come from the past 5 years. What can you do in this situation? This is when citation chaining can be very useful. This is a way to identify the most influential articles on your topic, as well as find earlier and later articles that cite or are cited by a particular article. So that was a bit wordy. Essentially, it's using a piece of literature that you have to find literature both before it or after it. And one of the most useful things of parts of a citation chaining is to be able to find more current literature. Okay. So you can do citation chaining to a limited extent in R scholarly databases, but Google Scholar is particularly useful for this exercise because of the extent of their indexing. They can index much more than any individual academic database that we subscribe to. Now, Google Scholar has its limitations. It indexes very widely, but that does not at all mean that it provides full text access to all of the articles that it indexes. And then you don't have the ability to limit to peer-reviewed material either. So if you do use Google Scholar, you definitely need to be aware of those limitations. If you find articles in Google Scholar, you will need to know how to go about verifying the peer review status of that article to be able to use it in your research. So I'm going to hop over here to Google Scholar. And one of the articles that I saw when we were doing that search was called A Human Right to Groundwater. So this is if you find an article and it's a bit earlier than you need it to be, copy the title, come over here to Google Scholar, paste it in, search for it. It will usually come up as the only example. Sometimes there will be a few others, but here is our article that we searched for up here at the top. And what I want to point out, I'll try to make it a little bigger. That might be too big. What I want to point out is this cited by hyperlink right here. So it says cited by 11, and this number could range from 1 or 2 up to thousands. But if we click on it, it's going to show us all of the other articles or books that have been published since the article we searched for that have cited that article. So the cited by number can be, I should say, a good indication of how influential a particular article has been. The higher the number, the more influential the article has been. However, that comes with a bit of a caveat because it's also a result of when the article was published. So an older article might be more cited than an article from last year, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the older article is objectively better. So just a side note. Now, you might, so when you find things in Google Scholar, we clicked on that cited by link. We're looking at all of the literature that has come out since that article was published. You're going to see links over here on the right-hand side. If there are freely available versions to the article that you're looking at, they might show up over here. Google Library can in no way guarantee the authenticity of what you find in Google Scholar, so buyer beware. If it seems like a fishy source, then my suggestion is to not use it, and you can request it from us via document delivery service, which we'll see in a moment. However, if you have Walden Library linked to your Google Scholar in your web browser, you're going to see links that say find at Walden. And when you do see these links, it means we have this article or this book chapter or what have you. And by clicking on that, it's going to act like a bridge and take you to whatever database it lives in our collection. So don't be afraid of that find at Walden link. Okay, so we've seen how to look at how to do citation chaining in Google Scholar. I would also recommend clicking on the related articles link as well. You can find some good literature that way as well. Let me just make sure we're on track. Okay, let me hop back over. So we've deviated from the presentation, but you do have access to all of this information if you want to grab this file. Okay, comprehensive searching. Comprehensive searching means exhausting the literature on your topic, and this often requires that you look outside of the Walden Library or your own research homepage. We do have a wonderful webinar on searching comprehensively, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I'll just say that almost all dissertation topics are, to some extent, interdisciplinary in nature, especially those in public policy and administration. These subject areas can be combined with virtually any other subject area out there. So health policy, education policy, social services policy, etc. So look at your particular research homepage, but also think hard about your topic and decide which other homepages you should visit. I'm going to come back over to the public policy page, and if you're on the research homepage, you can easily navigate to one of our other research homepages by clicking on this drop-down menu up here in the top left. So take a moment, review the other subject pages, and don't be afraid to explore those. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Political Science Complete. Okay, let's say we're gonna talk about saved searches and search alerts at this point. Yeah, so let's say that you run a search that is particularly well crafted and it returns excellent results for you. You might want to save that search. Now, you might want to do this for two reasons. One, to return to this list of results at a later date, because you might do it at a public computer or when you don't have time to go through all of those results, so you can save the search to come back to. You might also want to do this to be notified of new content added to the database that aligns with your search criteria. And for either case, the good news is that you can do this, and it's a really, really helpful feature. So if we go to the top of the results page where we are now and look off to the right, we see this share button. And if you click on that, it'll expand a drop-down menu. And from here, you can do various things. You can add this whole search to a personalized folder. You can go through the first 20 results and pick out which of the results you want to archive in your own folder. Now, for both of these options, it will allow you to do that without setting up a personal account. However, don't count on those results being here the next time you sign in. To save them in a permanent way, in a more permanent way, you need to come up here and either click on this folder icon or this sign in link, and it'll allow you to create a personal account with this database, and that's just your name and an email address. It's free. And at that point, you can save your results or your searches into folders that will always appear here when you come back. But that's an important point. I don't want you all to have materials that go missing. Okay, so another thing you can do is you can create an email alert by clicking email alert. And when you do that, it will allow you to specify the frequency with which you'd like to be updated when new content that meets your search criteria is added to this database. And this is particularly helpful once you've collected the majority of your literature and you're focusing more on writing. You're not going to necessarily be in the databases on a daily basis, but if you use this tool, it will email you. So it helps you stay on top of literature on your topic. And lastly, you can copy this permalink down here at the bottom, and you can email that to yourself or save it in a Word document. What that's going to do is let you come back to this search anytime you want to, simply by clicking on that link. Okay, now let's talk about accessing materials outside of our collection. So there will be times, I'm going to go back to the library's homepage. There will be times when you need materials that we don't provide direct full text access to. One way you might encounter these materials is by searching in a database and not limiting to full text, like we mentioned earlier. Some results will not show the full text options, the PDF or the HTML, and you won't see a Find at Walden link either. For these materials, you'll need to submit a document delivery service request. So I want to show you how you can do that. From the library homepage, you'll come up here along the top banner and click on Services. And then under Student Services, there's a link for Document Delivery Service. And here you can read about what this is. Essentially, you will give us the information you have about the source, the citation information, and typically they will be articles or book chapters, and we will email you that content in 7 to 10 business days. So keep this in mind. You can read through the information here. You can watch a short video on how to do that, and then you'll sign in to make the request over here on the left. Now there is a 30 article lifetime limit, so keep that in mind. Most students don't even come close to that limit, but do try to reserve those document delivery requests for articles that are seem very important for your research. Okay, now I want to show you one other resource called Worldcat. And this is another way you can go outside of the Walden Library. So worldcat.org is the website. And this is an international library catalog, essentially. It has records of virtually every resource out there, whether it be a book, a video, a journal, anything. So what we can do is simply enter the title of what we're interested in here, and I'm going to use just Walden. And when I do that, it's going to give me a list of results. And you can see just from using this word Walden, I'm getting close to 75,000 results. It will most likely give you the most recent edition of Henry David Thoreau's Walden first. So you can, if that's what you're looking at, if looking for, you can click on that. And obviously this is an example. You probably wouldn't be using this particular book for your research, but you might. But for any resource, you click on it, and then you come down here, and you can enter your own zip code. So I'm going to enter mine in here, and I don't know why that wouldn't work, but okay. Okay, it's not working right now. Sorry about that. Try again. Sorry, something went wrong looking up your location. Typically, you're able to enter your zip code in here and click Find Libraries, and it displays all of the libraries in your area that have that resource. So there might be, if you have a good public library system in your area, you can get lots of materials through them. It'll also show you libraries at universities and colleges. If it is at a private institution, just make sure you call before you go and say, you have this particular resource that I'd like to come consult. And they are usually pretty understanding about that. Okay, so that's just something else to know about. And I also wanted to just mention a full text guide that we have. So I'm going to do a quick search here for full text. And the guide is called Find Full Text. And it covers both of those tools that we just saw, plus some other ideas for how you can go about getting access to resources. All right, let's see how we're doing on time. Okay. Sure, let me show you one more thing before we go. I'm just going to use that same search again. I'm going to type in the word matrix. And no, I am not looking for the Keanu Reeves movie. I'm looking for a tool. I'm going to click on this first peer review, first quick answers result to show you what I mean. I just want to mention a couple of tools that we recommend to stay organized as you continue to collect literature, because that's a really important skill to have. One tool that we recommend, I wonder if no, I don't think we have it. Yes, okay, here, this is an example of what we call a search log. It's a very simple table that you can make in Excel or Word, where 4 columns, database, search terms, results, notes. It's where you record your notes on where and how you have searched, because you will be asked to report on your search strategy in chapter 2 of the dissertation. So this is used at the database level. Then once you start collecting literature, I'm just going to hop around real quick to show you an example of what we call the literature review matrix. This one is not the one I wanted. This is a literature review matrix. As you can tell, it is a bit more complex. There's more columns, but essentially you use it the same way. This is where you record notes on the individual sources that you collect for your dissertation. And if you do this in Excel, you can sort the columns at the end, which is a really helpful thing to be able to do. It will help you synthesize the literature, which is another thing you will be asked to do in chapter 2, the literature review. All right, and lastly, let's see. And I've included a link here to our citation management software guide. Take a look at that if you're interested. There's lots of different citation management software out there that in a sense can do the same things as that search log and literature review matrix do. But if you're interested, you can read more about that there. And that concludes what I wanted to get through today, but I do want to make sure you know how you can contact us. The first way is to click on Ask a Librarian up in the top corner of the library homepage up here. And when you do that, it's going to take you to a page where you can choose how you contact us. You can email us, you can chat us, you can call us. If you are a doctoral level student, you can schedule a one-on-one research appointment with a librarian. This is a 30-minute sit down in which you can ask anything that you have questions about, and you really get some individualized attention. And lastly, this webinar will be archived in our webinar archive that is available through our website, and I'll show you where that is real quickly. If you go to Get Help and this webinars box, you can go to recorded webinars, and this is where you can browse through all of the webinars in our collection. And with that said, I'm going to say thank you so much for attending today. Good luck with your research, and I will go ahead and stop the recording and take your questions.